Greetings gamers, my name is Anto, and a couple weeks I promised you that I was going to show you my LegendKeeper GM Bible, show off everything included in it, and let you get your hands on it, which is going to be this video. We got a lot together today, so strap in, grab yourself a fresh, hot beverage, and let's get started. So here we are in my LegendKeeper GM Bible. This takes all of the learnings from several years of building out other GM Bibles in things like OneNote, and puts it into LegendKeeper along with a bunch of LegendKeeper specific tools. As I said, there is going to be a link in the description below for you to pick up a LegendKeeper file for this so you can bring it into your own projects and use it as a starting point to get started with this. This video is sponsored by LegendKeeper. If you head down to the description below, you're going to find a link that will take you over to LegendKeeper and allow you to get 20% off your first payment. Doing that helps support the channel. I get a kickback, you get money off on your subscription. Everybody wins. But without further ado, let's dive into my LegendKeeper GM Bible and check it out. So when you import my GM Bible into LegendKeeper by going up to the little LegendKeeper logo up here, clicking import, and then selecting the LegendKeeper file option and locating wherever you've downloaded it on your computer, you'll be met with this page. This is our default homepage, the World of Ishtar, and this gives you an example of how to use a lot of the tools that we're going to be talking about today in situ. But the actual first page you want to go to is the Start Here page. So we've got Start Here and Legal right at the top. So this is a product. It does feature some proprietary stuff from other companies. So there's a bunch of legal notices for the SRD, for Paizo stuff, for copyrights, all that in there. But then there is also just a little introduction on how the hell do you use this thing. So at the time of recording, I just recorded my 2025 version of my introduction to LegendKeeper video, which will be in here by the time you're seeing this. But currently it's my 2024 video. But there's a little introduction saying what this is. It's to use to organize your campaign notes, to help bring order to the chaos. And then there is a little link to the playlist of LegendKeeper videos that I have, as well as a link to the most recent version of my LegendKeeper overview, which by the time you're watching this will be the 2025 version. And then we've got some FAQs. It'll mention the fact that a lot of you that will have seen my stuff out in the wild will see the map that's got the hundreds and hundreds of pins on it. That's not in here because it's overwhelming. And then the most important bit, cool, how do I use this? Well, when you're ready and you've familiarized yourself with everything and you understand how I'm using everything, I've set it up so that you can safely delete the entire Ishtar folder. So everything that is kind of specific, or most of the stuff that's specific to my world, is baked into that Ishtar folder. You delete that, and then what you'll be left with is a pretty generic instance of the GM Bible that you can then apply to your games. You know, there's a couple of things within Calendar and a few other pages that make like small example references to stuff in my world, but the vast majority of it that you would want to delete when you're getting rid of it to make space for your own world is in the Ishtar page. So I bundled it all together to make it as easy as possible for you to chuck out what you don't need beyond using it as an example, and you pull in the stuff that you actually want to use. So we're going to start on the left and go top to bottom. I'm going to show you everything that is included in here. There'll be timestamps at the bottom of the video for you to jump around. I'm going to start with the GM screen. So GM screens in this are built using LegendKeeper's boards feature. These are like whiteboards, interactive elements that you can click on. So the first thing that you want to do when you have imported my GM Bible and you want to use the DM screen is you need to lock everything. For some reason, it imports them all unlocked, but just go ahead, click somewhere on the page, select all, come down to this menu, hit edit, and then toggle locked. And that will lock all of the buttons and allow you to use them properly. So now when you click on them, it brings the sidebar out by default. And it also means you can't just drag the button, you can't just drag it around, because otherwise you can mess up all of the arrangement. So this is the 2024 version of the DM screen that I use. I've also included my 2014 version and a Pathfinder version that are linked to some specific mechanics for each of those. You can see that the 2024 version is the most complete because that is the game I'm currently running. All of this is built up and kind of developed as I am running actual games. So this is the most developed. But you can see it's broken down into 3 sections: combat, downtime, and GM. So everything that I might need in a combat scenario is in one section, everything that I might need during downtime is in another, and everything that I might need as the GM is in a third. So if the players want to ask me what the rules are for grappling, I can click on the grappling section and read the rules for grappling without having to look in a book or go to D&D Beyond. If they want to look at what the conditions are, and one of them says, how does invisible work again? I can go and look it up. Same with cover or the influence action or anything that's listed here. These all link to pages that are nested underneath the DM screen, which keeps them nice and contained. It also means that you can just export this specific page out of the project and into another. So let's say you download the GM Bible and you're like, cool, this is all cool, but all I really want is the DM screen. You can just come over to the 3 dots, hit export, and you can export the DM screen out of the GM Bible and into another project however you see fit. Same with the 5e screen and with the Pathfinder screen. Then we come to the home page. This is the world of Ishtar. So Ishtar is the homebrew world that I've been running a campaign in for the best part of a decade now. We're like 4 long-term campaigns deep in this world. If we go ahead and click on the map, you can see beautiful incarnate map of Ishtar here with a single pin on it, because again, this is all about directing you, the user, into understanding how I use LegendKeeper versus providing you with a gazetteer of my world. But it'll direct you down to the Jewel Cities of Talabar, which will then give you a bunch of information about key locations in the region, different information on who you might find in the Jewel Cities, and then also the map. And the map of the Jewel Cities, contrary to what you may have seen if you've seen my stuff elsewhere, doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of pins on it in this version. It only has a handful, and each of these pins explains how I use different coloured and shaped pins to make it easier to read maps at a glance. So for example, the black pin denotes a region, the red pin denotes a monster, the green pin denotes a magic item, and that allows me to look at that full map that I have that's got hundreds of pins and really easily be able to parse the information. Then we come to a list of generic locations. This is something that I use predominantly when making city maps to be able to really quickly pull in lots of different locations onto the map without having to do any work. So I can just drag these icons onto the map from the sidebar. I can open up a map, I can go over to the generic pin section, and I can just start dragging those options on really easily. Then we come to a Pantheon section. This is just a top level category that I use in my own organization. You can see at the top here, I keep my world, my main region, then Pantheon, Adventures, and Timeline or Calendar as my big tabs along the top. And this is just a table of my Pantheon with some information about them just to serve as sort of an example and a little bit of inspiration. Then we come to the Adventures category. This is where I keep tabs on all of the adventures that are coming for my players, and you can see that I also have a tasks for next session option here as well, which lists everything that the players want to do between now and next session, and this is used in the templates, which we'll cover at the end. Then we have the calendar. Here you can see a nice visual of my Ishtar calendar, as well as some information on the ages of my world, as well as a blank calendar. This is how I prefer to track the moment-to-moment gameplay of my campaigns, with a table that I can go through and type in specific information in. And then we come to the timeline page. This has a link to the LegendKeeper official video on timelines, as well as some kind of context of how I like to color code my timelines, and then the timeline of Ishtar as it stands right now, just so you can get a sense of how I use my timeline. Then finally, we have a blank version of my calendar, which is what I'll put in at the start of every new calendar year, because my calendar uses set days. So the first of the year is always the same day of the week. Makes it really easy to just reuse calendars. Then I have a category for players. This is where I track relationships between players, things that they're doing, things that they want. And I've got a couple of different pages in here for ongoing threads, so plot threads that they have in progress at the moment, and items that the party want. So any item that the players say, oh, at some point I'd really like to get my hands on a amulet of health. Well, I can make a note of that, and the next time it becomes relevant or possible for an amulet of health to come up in an adventure, I can put that in. And then finally, we come to the main meat of the GM Bible, and that is the templates. So I've got a variety of templates here, and these are the templates that I use in my sessions every single week. Starting off, we have the adventure template. This is what I use to prep my adventures every week. It starts with a summary, an overview of what the session will be about, has some information on which player character is going to get a hero moment this week, so to make them feel special, has some planning information, and then has some post-game notes sections. So where did the players go? What did they do? Who did they meet? What did they find out or learn? And then what are their next goals? And filling those out at the end of each session really helps me organize my notes and stay better informed as a GM. Then we've got a couple of different character templates, as well as a compendium template. This is just anytime I need a generic compendium template, this is the one I use. Then we have a deity template. So this has got specific information and secrets for deities. Then the same for factions, as well as having some templates for items, as well as monsters. A template for nation development. So this has got all of the kind of information that you would want to include to really build out a deep and rich nation. Then we have an NPC template, then a point of interest template, which again gives you kind of information on that location. And if there is a quest giver in that location, who is it? And if there's a reward, what is it? Then we have a region template. This is full of little prompts and tidbits of information to help you build out a region. So who's the ruler? What system of government do they have? What languages do they speak? What are their primary exports and those kind of things? But then if you scroll down, it's got my entire doppelganger system in it. So it's got a ton of questions that you can ask yourself about a region to help develop it and make it more rich and lived in. Then same for a settlement template, so it's just a level down, and that includes our locations in a settlement list. So as you're building out that settlement, you can think, right, okay, this settlement probably does need a tavern, a jail, a courthouse. Does it need to have a courthouse? Maybe not. It definitely needs to have a general store, but does it need to have an alchemist? That kind of thing. And then finally, a generic location template. So if you've just got a location on the map that isn't necessarily a settlement, but you want it to have its own fixed pin, this is what you would use. And there we have it. That is my LegendKeeper GM Bible. This is the material that I've been using to run my games for years now in LegendKeeper every single week. As I said, you can download a copy of this down in the description below. And don't forget, if you're interested in LegendKeeper, to check it out using my code down there as well to get 20% off. If you haven't already, check out my 2025 overview of LegendKeeper over here. But until next time, happy gaming.